Hello, this is Larry Hastings. Join me now for another episode of Outside the Actor's Studio, where we dissect the minds of the greatest actors of this, or any generation. Tonight, we look at a world-class ensemble, that of a cast of Mission Rejected. Join me now at... Wait a minute. I thought this was going to be about me. I wanted to share my favorite curse word. It's Bumble.
Mission Rejected, the story of the world's most unlikely podcasters. The Porch Room. Tonight's episode, Agents Exposed. With your host, Raymond Morse.
Wow, so this is kind of surreal for me. I've sat in on some of your recordings, but I've never gotten to talk to most of you. So, I'm honored that he asked me, but I'm also scared shitless.
Please don't hope we don't disappoint you tonight.
Yeah, really.
We're just scared we're not going to be
Exactly.
good enough.
I was like, me too, because I've never done this before.
Hey, how hard can it be? Like, he gave me a bunch of questions, and we're going to start with the easy one. I think everyone should go around and introduce themselves and tell people what parts they play, because I don't think everyone's going to recognize the voices right away.
Very true.
So should we start with Faith?
Okay. My name is Faith Dowgin. I play Section Chief Zelda Anders, and that's it. I'm having fun. Happy to be here.
Okay, should I just go down the list? So that would make, on my screen, that'd be David's next.
Sure, I'm David Stanger, and I play Bowden Moncrief.
And I love Bowden.
What's not to love? What's not to love?
Well, I'm sure they can think of a few things. Give me time and a few more drinks. But Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Killion. I play the Admiral and a host of other random voices, including Security Guy and Archie and random other things.
Perfect.
Bob
Nazla?
plays all the best parts. Oh, he really does. Because it's Bob playing them. We really want an episode where
Thanks,
Bob
guys.
plays every single character. I'm Nazli Sarpkaya, and I play Mackenzie McGrath.
Who I think is a huge fan favorite because I see so many questions about McGrath.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
Buckle up,
prepared.
Nazli.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so not prepared for this.
Okay, Jill.
Hi, I'm Jill Ivey, and the recurring character that I play is Lex Hammond, so I have to do that voice. But I actually, like Bob, play a lot of different characters, so you probably don't recognize my normal speaking voice, but you've heard me play a dozen characters or more.
Fantastic. Chris.
My name is Chris Klaniecki, he, him, his pronouns. I play two characters, Skip Granger and Coffee Skip, both of whom also prefer he, him, his pronouns.
Are you Coffee Chris right now, then?
No, it is past 8 on the East Coast right now, and I have work tomorrow.
Oof. Well, last then, but certainly not least, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Banks. I play Athena. Athena. You all know her. You all love her. You all will worship her. But if you are maybe earlier in the series, I play Ocean Girl, who is much nicer.
Is she?
And definitely not the same person.
Well, that's a good place to start then, because I actually have this question for you. Did you always know that Ocean Girl was going to be Athena? And how different is it playing Athena this season as opposed to last?
So yes, I did know, well, yes and no. So I knew before the recording had even started that I was going to end up being the mastermind. That was basically how Michael presented it to me. I did not know specifically what form that would take and didn't know that I would be Athena O'Brien until I think I got the script and everybody else found out. But I definitely knew that it was going in that direction. In terms of what it was like to play her this season instead of last season, it's been tricky because I think her voice is much more normal than Ocean Girl's voice, which means that I have to be much more conscious of like, am I just talking or am I voice acting right now? And you know, I'm never actually sure of the answer there, but I try my best.
See, and as a non-voice actor, that all kind of confuses me. I just yell at the mic when I'm given lines for things. So
yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm doing too. So shh, don't tell anybody.
Okay, I promise I won't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So for everyone and whoever wants to start, how did you all become involved in the show?
I actually worked with Porch Room before. I met Michael, Pete, and John back in 2013. Actually, the play that they wrote and produced was the first professional show I've ever done in New York. And we stayed really good friends and like working together on smaller things. And when they had the idea and wrote a few episodes, they asked me to audition. Fun fact, I auditioned for McGrath and Gloria.
Funny how that works.
I think the casting was right on point, though.
I've known Michael for, God, like 15 years now. And we were still in touch sometimes. And a couple of years ago, he posted on Facebook that he'd been lured back to our college Shakespeare company to direct a play, but he didn't want to be the oldest guy in the room. So were any alums who were still in the area interested in auditioning? And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't have anything else to do. I'm self-employed. I can make this work. And so I did this play, and that's also how I met Chris and how I met some other people that pop up periodically on the show.
Okay. Faith, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm married to one of the writers, but when they came back from Austin and John said, we are going to do a podcast, I was like, oh, well, that sounds like fun. And then I didn't want to say anything else because I didn't want to seem like anxious or needy. And so I just kind of, well, no, I was like, that's great, that's awesome. But I didn't know how to keep talking without saying, oh my God, do I get to be in it? And he said, yeah, Pete's already writing a part for you. And I was like, okay, great. This is awesome. So kind of, luckily all three of the guys have seen me act for a really long time. So, I didn't have to audition, which I was kind of grateful for. Nothing sucks more than auditioning for your husband for a gig. So, yeah, I just get to sit back and like listen to everybody and laugh all the time, and then come in and be the killjoy and go away again.
Great. So Chris,
right? So, as Jill mentioned a few moments ago, unless that part was cut, in which case the audience hasn't heard this yet, I was at the college where the first of several Shakespeare shows was going up, and Michael was directing it, and I found out that it was going to happen. So I answered the call. I was very lucky to be cast in his show, and worked with him on several shows after that. And when he told most of us in the casts of those Shakespeare productions that, hey, I'm doing this side project looking for people to audition, I said, yeah, sign me up. Be happy to. Anything to spend more time with Michael DeAngelis. It's worth mentioning, too. I think it's the first time I met him was at the Shakespeare production auditions, but it may have actually been a couple of decades before that. It turns out his dad is the principal of my elementary school. So his family and mine weirdly go way, way back. And it's fun to make references to our middle school field trips that nobody else gets.
Did you?
Fun for us.
Did you see the principal a lot?
He would show up occasionally. All right, I'm going to tell a quick story. He would show up occasionally to classes. He'd like walk around and just like observe. And seriously, Mr. D is super duper cool. If you ever had a chance to meet him, you'd understand. He just exudes warmth and support. And he's pretty funny too, and a good sense of humor, which is important for this. So I was in art class one day, I think this was third grade, and we were being tasked with making these papier-mâché masks. That was like our project for the next couple of weeks. And and Mr. D came in when we were getting started. I hadn't figured out what I was going to do yet. People were going to make like a devil or a goblin or a mermaid mask or whatever it was going to be. And Mr. D came over to the table and he goes, he knew my name, which was cool and also surprising. He goes, "What are you going to make, Chris?" And I was caught flat-footed because I didn't have an answer. And I was, 8 years old. So I turned and I said, "I'm going to make a mask of you, Mr. D." And he goes, "All right." And he moves on. And then I was kind of stuck because I told the principal I was going to make a mask. So I did. And my family, I think, still has like that tattered mask to this day. Maybe Mr. D is going to hear this story and it's going to be awkward for the rest of our lives. But hopefully not.
I have to send it to him as a
That
gift.
sounds more creepy.
Yeah, and why does this sound like a Skip Granger story, not a Chris story?
Bob.
So I met Michael and also Chris and Ashley and Jill and a number of other folks who have been involved in the show. When Michael directed As You Like It, one of my colleagues at the school where I teach, she stopped me one day and she said, "Oh, my friend," she was in a reading group with Michael. And she said, I have a friend who's looking for people to be in this show. You know, he needs someone who can act and sing and play guitar. So she's like, "You should check this out." And I was very excited to. And so I met up with Michael in this like tiny little audition space and got out my guitar and played some Bob Dylan. And he was like, "All right, great." And so I got to be in that show, which was an awesome experience. Got to see Chris making random puns on stage in character. Got to act with Jill. Got to do some dancing and singing with Ashley. So it was a great experience. And then, so naturally when Michael was doing this podcast, I was like, well, I'm 100% in.
I just remembered. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. I was just going to say the first time that because Bob and I had a bunch of scenes together in that play, and he hadn't been at our initial table read. I think because that was when Michael was still looking for somebody to play that part. And I've just met Bob. I was running late, walking to rehearsal, and Michael's like, "Cool, you guys good to run the scene?" "Sure. Hello, stranger." And the next thing I know, we're reading the scene, and Bob is on his knees with this like hilariously hick cowboy sort of accent. And I was completely unprepared and I could not hold it together for the rest of rehearsal. I just laughed all night. And so for the people who listen to Mission Rejected and get like all of those Bob voices and how amazing they are, just know that like we are all laughing with you.
But oh my God, we crack up all the time.
I love you guys. All shucks.
Aww. We love you too, Bob.
So we have David and Ashley left. Should they fight to the death over who goes next?
I would like to go next if that's okay with David.
By all means, go ahead.
Mostly because my meeting of Michael was also that production of As You Like It.
Very original, guys.
I know. This is like when you're like last in the introduction group and you have to not copy what everybody else did. But yes, so I also met Michael in that same production. And that is also when I met Bob and Jill and most of the rest of the cast, except for Chris. Chris and I went to college together. So #samesies. On to you, David.
Well, I'm going to go in a different direction. I met Michael in college at Muhlenberg, and we both ended up in the Philly area together and had been trying and failing for a number of years to work together again in some capacity. And every time we reached out to each other to do something, it was just butting up against some other project. So he finally reached out to me about doing the podcast at a time when I was doing a fair amount more voiceover work anyway. And he goes, "Hey, I want you to play this narcissistic out of work actor." And I said, "I think I can do this. I got this. Yeah, I'm in." So it's been a pleasure to work with these lovely people ever since.
So I gather you guys all live in the same general area.
It sounds like we do. It's the magic of audio.
It sounds like you do. Well, I mean, if you were all recording in the same room.
We live sort of in the tri-state area. Like I live in New Jersey. John and I live in New Jersey. Nazli lives in New York. But we all would get together in Philadelphia because that's where the majority was. So.
Right. I mean, like once a month on a Sunday, I would get on the bus really early from New York, go to Philly. We would record for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, and then I would get on the bus and come back again.
Yes, Nazla actually makes sacrifices.
No, I'm just saying,
unlike the rest of us.
Yeah, which is awesome because it's so good to have you at the recording, Nazla.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to do it a couple of times. You know, the first few times, Michael said, if you want to do it from home, but I wanted to be with everybody because it's so much better. It's so fun. I actually looked forward to those Sundays. Since this start, like the last year, we've been doing it from home. And while, I mean, it is convenient, absolutely, it's just not the same.
Yeah. The couple of live recordings that I went to, I really loved being at, and I miss them. I didn't get to go to a lot because John and I have a young son, so we would he would go more often than I would because I didn't have a lot of lines or I didn't have a lot to contribute. But the times that I did get to go were so much fun. It's so much better to be in the room with everybody and watch them work and see their faces
and try not to laugh at Bob's lines when he delivers.
And try not to laugh.
Oh my God!
Try not to laugh at Bob. So.
I love
I'm convinced that he takes it as a personal challenge.
That's right. That's right. I love just being together, like all of us. It you get that energy that you wouldn't get normally, and I feel like we get to joke with each other, and like we get to we get to encourage each other, like laugh at different things that are happening, and I feel like that really helps a lot.
We also get to, we have more input sometimes to the script and each, we might be able to say, hey, that was really funny. I loved it when you did whatever. The Porch Room guys, our creators are really open to feedback from the cast. And sometimes there's just a moment that happens when we're taping that that joke just wrote itself. Go ahead and put that in there. And so we do.
You kind of answered one of the questions here with this conversation, which was how much of it is scripted versus how much is improv. And it sounds like it's a good mixture of both.
I mean, it's mostly scripted. We get beautiful script.
Yeah, it's mostly scripted.
It's 98% scripted.
Some of the more, not throwaway lines, but the witty quips or the puns might be more improv heavy, but anything that's really moving forward the
plot. Or I guess whenever somebody's shoving somebody or they're falling, they're just, say some stuff. So it's more like ad-libbing than improving, I think.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So then
or Bob. Bob is the exception.
I just feel like I get a lot of moments in the show that lend themselves to that. And then I just, but I take it, of course. I'm like, oh, I know.
So this seems like a loaded question, but since we're talking about the scripts, who is your favorite writer for the show and why is it Michael? Can you guess what that question is? Right.
I will tell you why.
Don't know talk
No, really though. He always writes. I mean, I think they all do though. I love when McGrath gets to eat and then talk with her mouth full. And they figured out that I love, because the first time they did it, I was giddy. I was so excited to do it. And then they did it again. And now I kind of ask them to do it. I just love, But I think Michael was the one who started it with the sushi.
Nazla, now that you said Michael's your favorite, Pete is going to kill you off the first chance he gets.
No, they're all amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm married to one of them and I still can't pick a favorite for the show. I love the pop culture references. I think John probably throws a lot more in, and so I probably get most of them. I get probably more of them than most people do because some of them are so obscure, but I live here and I have to hear those obscure references all the time. So I'm always amused by those, and they always seem to be more his than anyone else's. And I love the puns. I love I can't pick a favorite writer because I think they all work together so well. And Paige also wrote the Renaissance Fair episode, which I think is one of my favorites. So I think all four of our current writers would bring something that I don't think we could do without.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that if I may. I think my favorite writer is the Porch Room. I think it's an excellent writing cohort, and they all complement each other very well. And they are stronger for each other, and so are we.
Oh, that was so nice.
I dare you to edit that out, Michael.
It was super diplomatic too, so you can't get into trouble for it.
I'm gonna say I don't have a favorite writer because having a favorite writer requires way more awareness in the moment of who wrote which episodes, which my brain just does not process. So I'm just like, oh, this was really funny. That was really funny. You guys are so great. And it's just, when you're writing, you're all one amalgamation of the writer.
I know that if there's a musical theater reference, then Michael is the one who wrote that script. So there are a couple, I love, and also all of the references that Bowden makes that have everybody going how old is this guy? His references span from the 60s to now, and I don't understand. I know a lot of that is Michael too, just honestly from knowing him for so long and also playing Quizzo with him and knowing what his vast depths of knowledge are. But it's so great the way that all of these scripts are cohesive, and it never feels like somebody's doing something out of character. It really feels like they're a team putting the stories together.
I think they found these characters' voices when they created the show, and they stayed true to that.
I agree. But I'm curious, with the musical, do you all have musical backgrounds?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
It was the scariest episode for me.
Yeah, that one was pretty daunting. I won't lie.
It was probably my favorite episode because I'm a huge musical fan, and I might have been pushing for a musical in this show since season one. So maybe I'm to blame, who knows? But I push every podcast to have a musical episode.
It's one of my favorite episodes, even though my personal role in it was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done. And I have been singing since I was a teenager. I do musical theater. I don't do rock songs. So thank God Pete and I have known each other for a very long time, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get me through that song note by note. But it was a lot of fun, and it was great hearing everybody else sing because everybody sounded so amazing. But it was also nice to know that I wasn't alone in being terrified of it.
Yeah, thank God for Pete. Can we just...
Yes. Amazing.
If we needed hand-holding, Pete was like, I'll hold your hand. How long you got? Let's record each note by itself, and I will edit them all together to make a song. And he was amazing. He worked so hard with all of us.
Yeah, he was definitely MVP for that episode. And I'll say I have a lot of musical theater experience, but it's old musical theater experience. I haven't done it, in a decade or so. So I was just like, oh no. But Pete really saved the day.
And it was also scary, for me to go on Discord and hear everybody else sing, and then it was my turn, and I know everybody can hear it. Everyone was so supportive. I remember Chris constantly unmuting himself and going, you're doing great. This sounds so good. Just keep going. It's okay. Because I was just scared.
It did.
It
wasn't a bald-faced lie, I promise.
Y'all
did great.
You. And Pete was a rock.
And it all turned out so well.
It sounded so good. I listened to that episode multiple times that week.
Yeah, I think I listened 3 times the day it dropped. So, yeah, I was so excited.
Also, the songs were stuck in my head for a long time too. I was singing them for a while.
Yeah.
They're so
catchy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's also another testament to
legit
Pete.
Earworms, yeah.
Who do I have to bug to get all these like as tracks so I can just put them into rotation?
Ask Pete to release the album.
Yeah.
Put them on Spotify. Yeah.
The Mission Rejected album. Yeah, on Spotify. Let's do it.
I definitely had all of my housemates who heard me singing She Got the Drop on You. Like every time something was happening that was like unfortunate for someone, they were like, oh, she got the drop on you.
So, Bob, do you have a favorite character to play?
Oh, man. I love playing the Admiral. Like the Admiral is so much fun. And I like when I first started doing the Admiral, like when I came, Michael was like, oh, okay, I was like confused. I wasn't sure exactly what we wanted to do. So I think I did something that was kind of like, I don't know, Sean Connery-ish. Like I was like, oh, I'm the Admiral. And like, man, Michael was like, no, more manic. And so it just became crazier and crazier. And I love doing it. I love doing the Admiral. And I definitely, a lot of times I need a glass of water after doing the Admiral for a while. It's pretty raspy on the voice, but I love it. Security Guy, also a lot of fun because it's basically just Worf from Star Trek. And I just do that voice. And that's just a ton of fun. And then just do it kind of like throwing in random voices here and there, like in the episode with the condo unit. I love doing the old man in that one. I just love this one, which is based off of somebody I know. Like that's just, I love being able to do those little things.
So this is a question that is for Chris and Nazla, and I'm sure that's brought up everywhere, and I'm sure you see it everywhere.
I think I know what's coming.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, it's the whole will Skip and McGrath hook up.
Next question, Your Honor.
Would you want them to hook up?
Go ahead, Chris.
I feel like if McGrath and Skip were to hook up, it would absolutely be a very well thought out and consent-driven decision.
And I think it would be if it happened, it would happen, and then I think they would both like sit down and go, this is not our thing. Yeah, no.
Good try. Let's go back to playing Scrabble.
We tried, doesn't work. I never thought about it until people kept asking, and like even when people ask it, I'm like, no way. No, they're not going to get together. Like I'm like, come on.
I mean,
I don't know why it's there's an expectation for a platonic friendship to be anything more or less than that. Sometimes that is the pinnacle, and that's wonderful.
Let me tell you about the patriarchy.
It's heteronormativity, Chris.
Let me tell you how the internet likes to ship everything. Okay, Dave. Which of Bowden's many roles would you like to have played?
Oh, I think Lord Nero is the top of the list there.
Yes.
Even though I was playing my brother playing Lord Nero, I think that comic book episode, I was a fan of comics growing up, so that one was close to home and close to heart. And with the superhero craze going on, I think I would love to don whatever that costume was, just the glimmer of description that we got from it. I think the costume alone would be worth it. So yeah, Lord Nero. Awesome.
So while I've got your attention, what does the future hold for Bowden and Gloria?
Good question. They had such a rugged patch sort of mid second season when that I always get the device name wrong, but it sort of turned into that sort of, that's the one. It sort of turned into that de facto lie detector, and Bowden kind of laid it on the line there. And I think that was sort of a make or break it moment for them, and they came through on the good side of things. So my hope is good. I've often wondered what she sees in him at this point, but she seems to find the good in him. So I'm gonna say positive. I'm gonna be hopeful.
Okay. So for everyone, before I get back into specific stuff, what is everyone's favorite character that they don't voice?
I'm kind of partial to Mackenzie. I love that she's so badass, and I also love, though, that not only did the writers give her an arc, but I love that Nazla makes her so, plays the vulnerability that she shows through so well. I'm personally jealous of Mackenzie and how she manages to be both badass and vulnerable at the same time.
Aw, I appreciate that.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love, Dave, I love your Bowden. And I like, it's one of my favorite moments was the when you were playing the portrait in the Halloween episode. I loved to hear the super dramatic moments. I love to hear those. They're just so much fun.
Well, and likewise, of the many characters that you play, I really love to fall in love with Archie. I think he's just such a suave, slick, and the Cockney accent just works so beautifully. So I'd love to take on Archie. I think he's genius.
Love it. We'll switch sometime.
Sounds good, man. No one will know.
Character that only appeared in one episode, but who I just absolutely loved was in our Renaissance Fair episode, Jeff the Bard, who was played by Jeff Barg.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure nobody gave him the music for his songs. He just showed up on recording day and was like, "Here's how it sounds," and then he just did it, and it was perfect.
That's kind of amazing.
That's so impressive.
Okay, Bob, since everyone likes your characters, do you love Fitz or hate Fitz?
I hate Fitz. There's really no getting around it. There were a couple times doing the Fitz voice where I was like, I hate Fitz. I was like, I cannot stand Fitz.
Bob, does that voice hurt? That voice sounds like it hurts.
It doesn't hurt as much as the Admiral hurts more than the Fitz voice. Yeah. For sure.
Whose character voice hurts the least? Let's talk about that.
Whose character voice hurts the least? No, we've actually got a pretty good question for Faith here. I'm surprised considering I know who wrote these. We got to meet Zelda's wife, Pat, this season. What about their relationship would you like to explore more in season 3?
That's a great question. So I love Sarah. I've gotten to meet her a couple of times, and she's fantastic. I get the impression that Pat sort of gets Zelda to be fun when Zelda's not on the clock, when Zelda's at home. I think that Pat is the person that convinces her to relax and be fun and be happy. I'd love to explore that a little bit in season 3, them together at home being happy and fun together. I think that would be delightful.
And that dinner episode was actually one of my favorites, listening to Zelda and Pat and how different they are. You could feel their different energies when you were listening to them. I thought it was so cool.
Oh, cool. So,
Chris.
Yes.
Now
what do you want?
Why does Skip wear flap bottom pajamas?
Answer that.
Right. So in the Harry Potter universe, there's this Quidditch World Cup that happens in the Goblet of Fire at the very beginning. And there's an old wizard that shows up at one point, and I believe talks to Harry and Ron just in the middle of the forest before the game starts. And he's wearing a dressing gown that is heteronormatively expected to be worn by women. And he's being questioned about why he's wearing this. And his response is, "I like a nice breeze around my privates." And I think Skip just appreciates you know what, this way you don't have to worry about the sweat. You're just comfortable when you need to be comfortable. And plus, Skip is very fond of the nice toilet in the condo. And I imagine that the back flap it's easier access, like when you gotta go, you gotta go. Don't want to worry about this whole like pulling things down and just let it ride.
For a more serious question, Skip went through a lot this season. Do you really think he would have quit the EMF if McGrath hadn't stopped him?
I think he thinks he would have. I think that Skip, as much as he likes to plan things and be ready for all sort of possible outcomes, a lot of what he does is fairly reactionary. And I think in that moment during the musical episode, he felt he was ready to quit. And thank goodness McGrath stopped him. Because if Skip had quit the EMF, it would have been awful. Like he thought he was at rock bottom at that point. He wasn't even close. So thank you, McGrath, for pulling Skip back from the edge. And pulling him out of that hole. He was literally in a hole at one point in that episode.
So, Ashley and Bob, how exactly do you become one with the ocean?
Find out in season 3.
Well, for just 5 easy payments of $999,999.99, you too can get a brochure to learn about the options available to the ocean.
Okay, Nazla.
Okay.
How do you think Skip and McGrath are going to be as roommates?
Ooh, I think it's going to be a rough start. They're very different. I want to say at home, but they're different everywhere. They're different when they're working. I think they're going to be annoyed with each other a lot. And I think McGrath is going to try to hide a lot of things that she does from Skip so that he won't freak out. I think it's going to be a little rough in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think I could live with Skip.
Yeah, I don't think...
No.
Yeah, me neither, but McGrath has a soft spot for him.
I'll chime in real quick on this. I know it wasn't my question, but I get a fairly significant Odd Couple vibe from the friendship, like very Oscar and Felix. And my guess too, if Michael's not here, he can't speak to this, but is that there's going to be a fair amount of of friction, so to speak, between who cleans when, whose turn is it to wash out the shower.
And what is your definition of clean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I see McGrath as like an organized chaos. It looks messy, but you know where it all is. It's exactly like my boss at work.
Is it weird that I feel like Skip is like disorganized organization system? If McGrath is organized chaos, where like everything's a mess, but she knows where everything is, I feel like Skip has everything in its place, and yet somehow struggles whenever he's trying to find anything.
That actually sounds, yes.
If you could take any one of the episodes and turn it into a theatrical production, now this is for any of you, which episode would it be and why?
Well, for theater, I mean, either way, but for theater, I think the Halloween episode would be really fun.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, it would be.
Just to see each person's worst nightmares come to life. Because I loved listening to it, but I would love to watch it.
It's like we've covered everything else, and I'm out of questions, if you can believe that, at just under an hour.
Well, that's okay. We found a nice balance of sometimes not talking at all to let everybody else talk, and then nobody talks, versus talking over each other. And, once the editing is done, it'll average out to an appropriate amount of talking at any given time.
This has truly been an honor and a pleasure to be able to talk with you guys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so glad Michael twisted my arm to make me do this.
Mission Rejected was created and produced by Pete Barry, J. Michael DeAngelis, and John Dowgin. This episode was written and edited by J. Michael DeAngelis. Your host was Raymond Morse, interviewing Chris Klaniecki, Nazli Sarpkaya, Dave Stanger, Faith Dowgin, Ashley Banks, Jill Ivey, and Bob Killion, featuring J. Michael DeAngelis as Larry Hastings and Kevin McGrath as the Mission Voice. Raymond Morse is the host of 5 and 30 with Ruck, an irreverent interview podcast featuring audio drama creators. Find it on Podchaser or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes episode, why not join us on Patreon for an extended peek behind the curtain? Patreon supporters received an extended version of this episode, as well as an ongoing look at the development of the season. Support us for as little as $1 a month. Visit www.patreon.com/missionrejected for details. This has been a Porch Room production, copyright 2021, Extraordinary Missions Limited.